to Receiving Noor, weekly Quranic wisdom study. We are starting a new chapter about the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, his messengership, another journey into the Quran, into the one who brought us the Quran. Dr. Yamina will be leading the session as usual, and you're welcome to join in with your comments and questions, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina. Bismillah.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So we just finished last week, بإذن the 18th word, which was about, there were 3 points, 3 parts, and the different parts were related to reflections on passages from the Quran, and they were related to each other, and it ended with how the messengers are needed because of the beauty and the art and the meaning and purpose in the creation. So they're needed people who would be receptive to the divine revelation of the meaning of the creation, the meaning of life, so that they could be models for us to follow, and also to bring us to show us how we can also follow that path, to be in touch with our maker, our creator, and how to receive the guidance and to live with it here and now. And this is the following 19th word after the 18th word, and it is about the messengership of Muhammad ﷺ. So it's about the Risale and the meaning of Risale. What does it mean to be a Rasul as far as we are concerned? Because that's what we are interested in, and that's what we want to be aware of, because we want to benefit from this risala, from this messengership, and from the message as much as possible, inshallah. And also because the more we know how he became the messenger and therefore the addressee of the divine, then we also learn by following his steps how to be open to receive that divine guidance and be addressees of the divine ourselves, inshallah, which is to fulfill the meaning and purpose of our life. And that's the only way we find fulfillment. And that's like the greatest achievement anyone can fulfill. And that's why the human heart has been, the ruh, the spirit and the heart have been created in a way that only then they find peace and tranquility. And it's something that anyone can experience for themselves and confirm for themselves, because anything else is eventually passing and impermanent. And even if we could imagine, just let's suppose and assume that we can find something that really, really fulfills our heart and souls. At the end, if it is not permanent, if it is not enduring, then there is no need to go further, because then we just know that As Ibrahim alayhi salam said, لا أحب الآفلين. I do not love what is transient and passing. And that's how we are created. Anything that is not enduring cannot fulfill us, cannot satisfy our deep longing and need for eternal meaning, eternal purpose, eternal wisdom, eternal joy, justice, and goodness and perfection. So this is, inshallah, about the Risale, the messengership of Muhammad ﷺ, peace and blessings be upon him. Bismillah. At the very beginning, when there is a quote from Imam Rabbani from his Maktubat, the Arabic is وَمَا مَدَحْتُ مُحَمَّدًا بِمَقَالَتِي وَلَكِنْ مَدَحْتُ مَقَالَتِي بِمُحَمَّدٍ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ. Bismillah.
Please go ahead, Sister Khitam, if you can still read.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I could not praise Muhammad with my words. Rather, I praised my words with Muhammad. Yes, this word is beautiful, but what makes it so is the most beautiful of all things, the attributes and qualities of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also listed as the 14th flash, this word consists of 14 droplets. First droplet. There are three great and universal guides which make known to us our sustainer. One is the book of the universe, a bit of whose testimony we have heard from the 13 flashes, together with the 13th lesson from the Arabic Risale al-Nur. Another is the seal of the Prophet, والسلام, the supreme sign, Ayah al-Kubra, of the book of the universe. The other is the Quran of mighty stature. Now we must become acquainted with the seal of the Prophet والسلام, who is the second and articulate proof and must listen to him. Yes, consider the collective personality, shakhs al-ma'nawi, of this proof, Burhan. The face of the earth has become his mosque, Mecca, his mihrab and Medina, his pulpit, Minbar. Our Prophet ﷺ is clear proof, is leader of all the believers, preacher to all mankind, the chief of all the prophets, Lord, Sayyid of all the saints, the leader of a circle of remembrance of God, comprising all the prophets and saints. He is a luminous tree, whose living roots are all the prophets, and fresh fruits are all the saints, awliya, whose claims all the prophets relying on their miracles, and all the saints relying on their gifts, karamat, confirm and corroborate. For he declares and claims, there is no God but God. All on left and right, that is, all those luminous remembers of God, Zakirun, lined up in the past and the future, repeat the same words, and through their consensus, in effect declare, you speak the truth and what you say is right. Can any falsehood meddle with such a claim, so strongly supported and corroborated by innumerable signatures?
Thank you. Thank you, Khita. So he's saying that there are 14 droplets. And the first one is, he's saying there are three great and universal guides. Here, the guides, the original is mu'arrif. So mu'arrif is something that makes something else known, that gives us ma'rifa. So we have the arafa, we know something, and it's not easy to translate it in English. So here it's guide, but it's more than guide in the sense that it's not only guiding us there, but it's also making it known to us. So what are these guides, these mu'arrif, which make known
Would
to us?
teacher be a better translation? Teachers, 3 great and universal teachers?
I don't know, because
It's not mu'allim. Yeah.
it's not. But we get it. It says, which make known to us our Rabb, our sustainer, who our Rabb is. Our Rabb means whoever is taking care of all our needs, who has the source of all our needs, all our whatever we are seeking in his hands, under his control. So these 3 mu'arrif, the first one of them is the book of the universe, which is the creation. Imam Nursi, the author, calls it the book of the universe, but in some places when he's talking more in details, you will see that this book is not a static book, but it's a book that is being renewed all the time, here and now, continuously. And in some places, he just calls it speech, because it's changing all the time. It's not a book sitting there, but it's like a book in the sense that it is meaningful, and everything in it is a sign, and it has a parallel with the word book. It gives us the parallel of the Quran. So the Quran explains the meaning and purposes of the creation, and the creation confirms and explains and expounds the messages of the Quran. So they are to be read together, because they explain together and confirm each other. And so it's something they need to be read in parallel. One is the book of the universe, a bit of whose testimony, like we've heard some of the testimony of the book of the universe, the creation, from the 13 flashes, whatever. So far, we learned about it from the 6th word, from the 9th word, from even the 18th word, the 33rd word. And another is the seal of the prophets, alayhi salatu wassalam, peace and blessing be upon him, the supreme sign, al-ayat al-kubra, of the book of the universe, because the prophet is in the part of the creation, but he's like the supreme sign of this book, the clearer sign, the sign that speaks up in the clearest. And this is the second mu'arrif, the second guide, teacher. And the third one is the Quran of mighty stature. Now we must become acquainted. So whenever in the Risale, whenever there is a paragraph or something, or it's always reflections that have at the beginning a passage from the Quran. So, and it always refers to the creation, follows the guidance of the Quran. Just like in the Quran, it refers to the creation. So that's the author, like he's following what the Quran is teaching. So these two, we had some kind of exposure so far. So now he says, now it's the time that we must be acquainted with the seal of the Prophet. Of course, when the way we learned to read the creation in the light of the guidance of the Quran, and vice versa, follow the Quran when it guides us to look at the creation, that way of reading in parallel and to apply it in our life here and now is something that eventually we learned from a silsila, a chain of teachings that goes back to the Prophet. But now he wants to talk about the Prophet more specifically.
Yamina, here, something that attracts attention is how the Prophet ﷺ is considered to be this part of the book of the universe. You just mentioned it, but I just want to highlight, because when I think of book of the universe or book of creation, it's a dynamic script, as you're saying, the universe is constantly changing and being renewed. I think of more like the natural things, so-called natural things. I don't necessarily, when I think about the Prophet ﷺ, I don't necessarily think of him as part of that book. And so this is interesting. This is very interesting that if the book of creation is the book of creation, then everything in it, including the Prophet ﷺ, and as he appears to us, and as he was experienced as a living, breathing person, that's part of the creation as well. So he is an ayah, a sign in the book of Kitab Kainat, in the book of the universe, and a major sign, an ayah al-kubra. So I almost feel like this image of, and then there's this image in the Risale as well, the image of this traveler looking for truth and willing to go around open-minded, and he's talking to heavens and the rain and so on. And then in that kind of journey, there is also the Prophet ﷺ that you look at as another sign. Okay, so the thunder and the rain and the flower blossoming and all of this is stars and moon. All of this is, these are all signs, letters, words, talking about the Creator. And then within the same book, the Prophet ﷺ is also a sign as part of this book of the universe, but a major sign that in itself requires special attention and almost, an additional chapter. And so I just want to highlight that was a bit kind of surprising in a good way.
The book of the universe doesn't include only what's usually called the natural world, but your social life, the people around you, everything is part of that, the book of creation.
True, right?
Everything is created on purpose. Everything is happening with meaning, with purpose. Everything is an ayah all the time.
Yeah. In the 33 windows, the beginning verse was, signs in the horizons, afaq, anfus, an inner world as well. And yes, that includes our relationships ourselves. And Sister Ziba also noted this in the chat, including us who are supposed to emulate him. We are also part of this book of the universe.
Definitely. Yes. So these are the three: the creation, within the creation, the supreme sign, who is the prophets, as far as we are concerned, is the Prophet ﷺ, and the other one is the Quran, that explains, and it's the light that explains to us the meaning of everything, and of course vice versa, because we can only know that the Quran is the truth and bringing us what it's bringing is haqq, when is reality and it's real and true, when we go back into the world and find out that it's exactly how it is describing it. So he says we must become acquainted with the seal of the prophets, peace be upon him, who is the second and articulate proof, and must listen to him. So all these mu'arrifs, they are universal guides. It means they are guides for everyone, everywhere, all the time. And they are also, he's calling them articulate proof. Burhanun natiq. Natiq is like a speaking through words, through behavior, through everything. And it's a burhan, it's a proof and evidence for those who have the intention and who are open-hearted and open of intention. Yes, consider the collective personality of this proof, this burhan. The collective personality is shakhs al-ma'nawi. Like generally, the personality that is represented through his message, through his message, his messengership, his being the messenger. So what is it? This personality is the face of the earth has become his mosque, because he is addressing everyone all the time, everywhere, not only the people that lived with him, but everyone, every human being, and at all times. He doesn't speak only to the people in his time. And the message that he brings, the Quran, also addresses Ya ayyuhan nas, all people, all human beings, addresses all humanity at all times. So the face of the earth has become his mosque, and Mecca his mihrab, and Medina his pulpit, his minbar. So it's much more universal than, it's beyond history. We cannot historicize his calling. Our Prophet, upon whom be peace, this clear proof, this Burhan Bahar, is leader of all the believers, preacher to all humankind. So he's addressing all humanity, the chief to of all the prophets, because he recognizes and he acknowledges the chain of prophethood from Adam alayhi salam to the end. All the prophets, known or unknown, they are all coming from the same God, the same sustainer, and they are coming with for the same purpose, with the same message, which is to reveal to people their istiqamah, their destination, the meaning of their life, how to realize their goal in this life, which is to find back their origin and go back to find back the source of everything that they long for. So all prophets and the inheritors of the prophets all show the same direction. A preacher to all humankind, the chief of all the prophets, Lord to all saints. Here the saints are awliya. So generally, I think we understand awliya is wali, someone who is very close to God, the leader of a circle of remembrance of God. Like the whole message is about living in the presence of God, remembering God in everything, in everywhere, all the time. Actually, if you feel that, oh my God, how am I going to remember God all the time? Isn't that like too much? That's because we still haven't learned what it means to remember God, we still don't know who God is as our Rabb. Because when we learn that, through that learning, then everything becomes an opportunity and a means to remember him, to know him, to get closer to him, to thank him, to love him, so our walking, sitting, seeing, appreciating, looking, eating, being hungry, eating, feeling full, appreciating the food, being healthy, getting ill, looking for health, everything is an opportunity to find him, to know him with his beautiful names, to feel closer to him, to fill our hearts and souls full of the love for him, feeling in his presence. So everything becomes like the beads of the tasbih, the beads of so everything becomes a means to glorifying him, to remember him. So this is what he teaches us. So it's not as we imagine when we don't know God, when we don't know the way of living that the prophets are teaching. When we have our own understanding and we try to paste it upon the Quran without listening to the teachings of the Quran, or even reading the Quran, but reading into it what we already know instead of being open to learning something new. When we read it without teacher, without someone from the chain of prophethood, someone who learned from them, then it seems like I have my life and I have lots of things to do, and okay, I'm making sacrifice and praying and doing all these things, and now I have on top of that to remember God all the time. How can I? Then there is a problem. That problem only exists in that already disconnected perspective, already disconnected paradigm. So if we have anything like that, we know that these are signs that I have to go back to the very beginning and learn who is God. Therefore, I have to learn who is me. What am I doing here? Who am I? And what am I doing here on earth? Lord of all the saints, the leader of a circle of remembrance of God, comprising all the prophets and the saints. He's a luminous tree whose living roots are all the prophets, because it's the same message and the same guidance, and whose fresh fruits are the saints, the awliya, and whose claims are all the prophets relying on their miracles, on their mu'jizat, the miracles of the prophet, and all the saints relying on their karamat. Again, in English, there is no difference. Mu'jiza or karama is translated as miracle. So here, gift is really miracle. But small miracles of the saints confirm and corroborate. So the miracles, the mu'jizat, the miracles of the prophets, and the small miracles, the karamat of the saints, confirm and corroborate this, that they are all from the same tree, this luminous tree, that they are some are the roots and the others are the fruits of the same tree. For he declares, for the Prophet ﷺ declares and claims, La ilaha illallah, there is no deity except God. And on the left and right, here left and right is past and future. That is all those luminous rememberers of God, all those dhakirun, those who remember God. the prophet remember God, and the awliya, the saints who walk in their paths, are also remembrance of God. They live in that remembrance, because that is what gives meaning and purpose, true meaning and purpose to any one of us. If anyone thinks that he found meaning and purpose outside of God, there is something, because they can't find any, nothing can be truly meaningful except that it is permanent and looks to eternity. It means it looks to God. So they are lined up in the past and the future, and they repeat the same words. They are all saying La ilaha illallah in a way or in another. There is no deity except him. There is no source of power except him. There is no source of life except with him. There is no controller, no source of knowing, no source of benefits or anything except him. That's what La ilaha illallah is. And with the consensus, yes.
And again, the image here is a circle of dhikr, circle of remembrance, and all the prophets deep in history, and all the enlightened followers of the prophet in the future, meaning after him, all of them together are part of the same circle of dhakirun, saying, declaring La ilaha illallah, there is no God except God. And so that image is again highlights what you said earlier about, this is being universal, being above history. I mean, yes, all of these people existed in history, but sometimes we get caught up in, so what was the historical context of Musa alayhi salam? What was the historical context of Noah alayhi salam? And yes, they all had their histories and everything, but what they all preached is this same universal claim that there's only one God, and they are actually, to think of them, they might be in different locations in time and space, but they're actually universally present in the same dhikr circle, in the same remembrance circle.
Corroborating.
Huh?
And they are all saying the same thing, therefore corroborating, that's very important, that they're all saying, basically, it boils down to the same message. And so they say that there is consensus, ijma', that they are all, there is saying the same thing, and they declare, you speak the truth and what you say is right. Sadaqta wa bil haqqi nataqta. And so the author is saying, can any falsehood meddle with such a claim so strongly supported and corroborated by innumerable signatures? And you look at the past, all the prophets are saying, all talking about God, remember God, there is one God, and all your life is from God and therefore should be for him. And all their sincere followers, the saints, they also live that way, and they, through their life, they confirm and corroborate this this message. So this was the first droplet. Shall we move to the second one, shall we? The second one, we won't stop long, because unless someone wants to go and actually find examples, in the second droplet, he talks about, for instance, refers to the Torah and the Bible, and you find in the Islamic tradition people who did go and study those scriptures, and they found some indications even in their, he says, is it in the English? He says, like, even in their, how do you say, distorted muharrif form, people have found so many indications. So you can imagine how much more clear indication there were in the original. If anyone is interested in finding some, not by, I said there are old sources, but there is also one written in the 20th century by Professor David Benjamin Keldani, who was, I think, a bishop, Catholic bishop from Iraq, studied in Rome, and who later became Muslim through studying, finding through his study of the Bible. Someone who speaks many languages, like languages of the Greek and Syriac, probably Syriac may be one of his native language. So these are people who were early Christians. And he wrote a book called Muhammad in the Bible, and you can find it. I think you can find the PDF online for free. If you write Muhammad in the Bible by Professor David Benjamin Keldani. But there is here in the, let me go through the second droplet and then. So the second droplet, we are told, just as that luminous proof of divine unity, this Burhan al-Tawheed, is affirmed by the unanimity and consensus from the two aspects, past and future. This was in the first droplet. So he is affirmed and corroborated by hundreds of indications in the revealed scriptures, like the Torah and the Bible, like the thousands of signs that appeared before the beginning of his mission, and the well-known news given by the voices from the unseen and the unanimous testimony of the soothsayers, and the indication of the thousands of his miracles, like the splitting of the moon and the justice of the Sharia. So now the miracles of the Prophet, there is a book by Qadi Iyad, and there is also the 19th maktub, I think, yeah, the 19th letter in the Risale. If you go to Risale, the 19th letter is about the miracles of Muhammad ﷺ, and it gives, I think, one of the references will be from Qadi Iyad. You can read both. And here I mentioned this Professor David Benjamin Keldani, and the author mentions Hussein al-Jisri's Risale Hamidiyya. This Risale Hamidiyya mentions 104 indication from the Bible. I mean, the Bible, the Old and New Testament. From them, he he derives 104 indication. It's called Risale al-Hamidiyya, and the author is Hussein al-Jisri. If someone is interested, they can go and look at them. So too, he says, in his person, his laudable morals, which were at the summit of perfection, and in his duties, his complete confidence and elevated qualities, which were of the highest excellence, his extraordinary fear of God, his worship, his seriousness, his fortitude, which demonstrated the strength of his belief and his total certainty and his complete steadfastness, all show as clearly as the sun how utterly faithful he was to his cause. This is important because someone can claim a cause, but he himself is not serious about it. He's not really following. And maybe the person may not be insincere in the sense that he truly believes it, but he doesn't really live accordingly. He thinks it's important, but for the prophets, all the prophets, they were the first. They were not only preaching others. Actually, most of their preaching was through their own living, because they fully believed and lived accordingly. So there is no dissonance between what they believed and how they lived. Unlike us, we may really say, truly, this is important, but then you go and we ourselves wonder, how come, if it's so important, why are you not so serious about what, and aren't you serious about it? Astaghfirullah. So that's the difference between the prophets and those who came closer to them, like awliya Allah, the close friends of God, the saints. People who totally dedicated their life to being consistent in whatever they believed, they uphold it in their life.
So is that, may Allah bless them all, is that...
And may Allah bless us with that consistency as well, inshallah.
So is that a correlation, because it is the opposite of hypocrisy, that if they were saying something, claiming something, and in the meantime they were trying to actually gain wealth or gain fame or say one thing and don't do it and so on, that would indicate that they're being hypocritical.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be sure about the message either.
Yeah, if they themselves, and then this kind of incredible courage, where in the conditions everything is looking, very against them, and that is also corroborating them, because they must have experienced something real to be so confident. Is that
because they follow the guidance and they totally trust the one who is sending them the guidance. For atheists, I've seen people who say, Hasha, Prophet Muhammad must have been mad. How could he do this in these conditions? Because for that person, he cannot imagine someone who, in the face of everything, will stand his ground, because he just follows the guidance. He doesn't know, he doesn't decide about, oh, now it doesn't look like I can make anyone unhappy. Let's go their way. I shouldn't, claim a new religion, because they will be very unhappy. It won't be good for us. Mm-hmm. So he said, he's mad. How could he do that?
Because if a person is motivated so much, either they are really motivated for a gain that they're seeking. And it doesn't have to be material. It could be just vanity, like fame, attention, and so on. And yet this person is not after any of them, and actually puts everything in danger to be able to preach something that doesn't really serve him. Yeah, it doesn't serve him personally to be the preacher of. So that, yeah, I feel that really supports as an additional evidence that he was genuinely a prophet. And it reminds me of some of those accounts in which some people in the time of the prophet, and again, this is not meant to be like a historical kind of story kind of thing. I mean to share it as a way of taking lessons for ourselves, for like the larger universal implications. And so this story of this person who only became Muslim after the conquest of Mecca, which is very late, that the prophet has been preaching for a decade, and that because that's the only time he finally kind of saw that this isn't about power. Like he wasn't after power, because yes, he came back, triumphant, and yet he doesn't want to take over. He doesn't even claim the Kaaba, the keys of the Kaaba. He clears the idols and the keys back. So then some of them only were able to see then that, wow, he isn't after personal gain. So so there are indications, clear indications in the way he lived, and that includes his courage at, with incredible odds, and his truthfulness and in the way he behaved. I think that morals, that ethic, ability to have principles even when the conditions are difficult, or nobody wants to lie normally. Nobody wants to do anything unethical just like that. But there are usually circumstances that we feel that we have to say this, we have to steal this, we have to do this, we have to drop this bomb. Like all kinds of justifications come up when we feel pressured. And
sometimes it's not a matter of lying. You just don't have to tell the whole truth as it is. We don't go around because
I think maybe you shared, or Dr. Ali shared years ago, this thing of in a halakha, perhaps, I can't recall, but in what a kind of historian, I think a contemporary early 20th century historian said that when he came to the point in the Prophet's biography where it said that Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, she said once to the Prophet, Allah gave you me as, because I think he was remembering Khadija radiallahu anha, and as Sayyidah Aisha said, well, Allah gave you better than her, or something like this, and he says, no, Allah hasn't given me better than her. And this historian says, well, this is a proof that this person is truthful, is a trustworthy person, because no man would avoid telling a small lie in this kind of circumstance, because it really doesn't hurt the wife who died, and it also kind of it makes the current wife feel nice, complimented. Yes, Allah. So he could have just said a minor lie and move on, and it's not we will even call it a white lie, but because he's trustworthy and truthful, he can't even say that little lie. And he had to say, well, actually she was great. And so so I think if we look from that, with that perspective, we can actually see in his ethics and the way he had these confidence, and at the same time humility and perseverance, all of that can support that he was trustworthy.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is Iqbal.
Wa alaikum salam.
May Allah bless you for this weekly gathering. And I don't know if it was Sister Isra who was speaking, but I just left work and I was pondering. And the first thing that got me was that to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to know ourselves. And it often makes me think about how deep it is for me. And then you mentioned another amazing idea, which is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is another sign from the universe. And now further, you're talking about akhlaq and the characteristics of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I think these ideas, they're definitely they're earth shattering. I'm very interested in personal development. I've been doing a lot of training, and I think even career development and all of this, all companies are these fundamental traits, the attributes of a human being that makes it that you can work with others, you can be of service to others. But day to day, I work for corporate America, and then I notice sometimes it's just beyond me. Sometimes my reactions are just human reactions, and sometimes I just feel like I cannot be enough. And today, hearing you, I really just got it again, back to this inauthenticity of saying I actually can do it. If it's left for me on my own, I am a good person. But then there's so many times these circumstances or incidents that happen that tests my knowing of who I am. And before and up to even now, I've been crying the whole time, is that I get frustrated. How come I know myself to be a good person, to be straightforward, to be trustworthy and all of that, but there's sometimes situations that come that I fail. And I just got it. These prophets, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik alayhim ajma'in, I think it's because they're completely surrendered, that they have nothing on their own, that there's no, the dhikr provides that, the constant dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides the knowing that we really don't have anything on our own. And it just daunted on me. And then in situations where you just like say, God, you know the truth. I want to be helpful, but I can't at this moment. Just help me. So it's back to this idea that really to know who God is, you just keep looking deep inside and see how much we need him to just be fully human. And I think it's embodied in these examples you're just mentioning about the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that he could say the truth in moments where most people won't say that or more, just because this connection is just 100% pure with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah give us that kind of relationship and keep us seeking him and growing, and may Allah bless you.
Amen. Thank you. Yeah, the discrepancy in our behavior and is because we are not always fully conscious of how limited we are and how much totally in need we are of his help, his guidance, his Allah's guidance and help, and showing us the way and giving us the patience, the everything. So when we are not in that state of being, we take it on ourselves that I am going, as if I am going to be the good person, I am going to do this, and because it's not the reality, it's not the truth. So the discrepancies appear, and that's also a rahmah, and that's also an opportunity to say for those who are paying attention that you see, you can't do it on your own, because this is not who you are. You are the receiver. And alhamdulillah that we are receivers, and may we be conscious receivers, inshallah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. So shall we carry on with the third and stop at the third, inshallah? Was it Khitam who was going to read? Inshallah, can you read the third?
I can read, inshallah. Third droplet. If you wish, come. Let us go to the Arabian Peninsula, to the era of bliss. In our imaginations, we shall see him at his duties and visit him. Look, we see a person distinguished by his fine character and beautiful form. In his hand is a miraculous book, and on his tongue a truthful address. He is delivering a pre-eternal sermon to all mankind, indeed to humans, jinn, and the angels, and to all beings. He solves and expounds the strange riddle of the mystery of the world's creation. He discovers and solves the abstruse mystery, which is the secret of the universe. And he provides convincing and satisfying answers to the three awesome and difficult questions that are asked of all beings and have always bewildered and occupied minds. Where do you come from? What are you doing here? And what is your destination?
Thank you. So first and second was in general. Now he says, let's come closer. Let's go there. And let's see him, visit him, and listen to him. What is he preaching? What is he teaching? He's teaching this miraculous book, this Quran, that is on his tongue. This is what he's teaching all the time. He's delivering a pre-eternal sermon to all humankind. And actually, that sermon concerns everything, all living things, all beings, not even living things. I think everything that exists. How? The next explains. He says, he solves and expounds the strange riddle of the mystery of the worlds of creation. The whole world of creation, its meaning, the purpose of its existence, what it is doing, why is it coming and passing and leaving. All of this is explained to us in a way that makes sense. So this message, this teaching regards the mulk of the creation, the physical things that we see and touch and feel, and the malakut, the part that looks to the angels. And we become aware of the angels. And through them, we become aware of the creator of everything, the sustainer of everything. He discovers and solves the abstruse mystery. Abstruse is just like difficult to understand, difficult, obscure mystery, which is the secret of the universe. So not only the secret of the universe is unfolds, and it is what was obscure becomes more and more open, more and more We are given all the keys to solve it. And he provides convincing and satisfying answers to the three awesome and difficult questions that are asked of all beings and have always bewildered and occupied mind, which is, where do we come from? What are we doing here? And what is our destination? This is whether someone has a religion or not, thinks he doesn't believe in anything. Everyone is preoccupied with these three questions. And all kinds of questions that we have can boil down underneath them is this. And all our aspirations and looking for something, we're looking for meaning. Meaning of what? Meaning of life. What am I doing here? Everyone is like finding something, but still something is missing. What is missing? And what am I doing here only makes sense if I understand where I came from and where am I going? What's the destination? Like, otherwise, I would not know the meaning of what I'm doing here. Doing it for what? And this is exactly what the Quran focuses on. We are told where we came from, why we came, and what's our destination. And we are told how to fulfill, what to do, and how to the easiest way to reach our destination. And what comes to understand the destination, to understand how to reach the destination through everything, how everything around us is actually helping us in that journey. That's the solving and expounding the strange riddle of the mystery of the world of creation. Things that are happening in our life, like illness or an accident or something good or something that we think is bad, or everything, or why is the people around me are acting this way. Everything seems to be, when there is when such a message is not there in our life, it's like you're in a dark black tunnel, and anything can happen anytime. From time to time, something happens and befalls me. And it's like, after a while, actually, if we, in that way of being, in that darkness, to maintain consciousness is not only it's not easy, but it's not even healthy, I would say, because I feel like we would go mad if we wanted, because consciousness of what? Consciousness of no meaning. Things are happening haphazardly, and especially if we like them, maybe. If we don't, then what are we going to do? So that's why they say, like, in ghafla, when we are not aware of the reality, that in itself is a rahmah. So, but when there is guidance and we know the meaning and still stay in that darkness, then that's foolishness. That's another kind of madness. So alhamdulillah, this is really, like, this last paragraph is extremely important. That's what makes the Quran, like, give it a try. If you haven't, like, give it a try, like, for 6 months, 1 year, make studying and following the Quran at the core, the priority of everything in your life. Even if you have a full career, make it as, this is for my, like, I have to go there and come and make a living, but all my attention is to this, then only you can know if it makes a difference in your life or not. Then only can we appreciate how life-giving it is, how it's like coming from darkness into light. Everything starts changing its meaning. But of course, the Quran, not without teacher, because I could be reading the Quran my own way and distorting it. What I wanted to emphasize is making it at the center of our life, not every weekend and the rest of the week I'm busy with something else. No, I learned, even if I learn one thing during the week, that thing will be the thing I reflect upon all the week. It becomes what grabs my attention, my point of focus. It's a choice, it's an intention. It does not necessarily need us to change our life. It's only a change of focus on attention of what we think about, what we reflect on, what we give importance to. He solves and expounds the strange riddle of the mystery of the world's creation. He discovers and solves the difficult mystery, which is the secret of the universe, and he provides convincing and satisfying answers to the three awesome and difficult questions that are asked of all beings and have always bewildered and occupied minds. Where do you come from? Where are you? What are you doing here? What is your destination? I think this week you can only think about these three questions and feel in your heart, not by heart, just memorizing answers that we learned here and there. No, what is in your heart? How do you feel? What is our answer to this? And of course, all these are related. When we have the answer to this, it is related to who I am. Who I am, not I am a doctor, this and that, I am a teacher. No, who I am I really inside me? Who am I? And you will find that everything that I think is me is actually only given to me. The more I ask who I am, the more I find only needs. I am the one who knows this and this and this. I learned them. I didn't always know them. I learned them. Anyone can learn them. And I may forget them anytime. I cannot control my knowledge and my memory and my understanding. So everything is related to my life, but my life is not mine. It's not under my control. I don't know where it's coming from. So the more we actually not think, but reflect. Reflect means listen, feel it in my heart, like in the heart, you can weigh up the reality, the facts. And the facts are, we observe them. That's why Shahada is important. The more we realize, the more I want to know who I am, the more I get to know who my Rabb is. That was the two lawha, the two tableaus, the two spheres in the last part of the 18th word, was one of ubudiyah that mirrors rububiyah. The more I look at who I am, I find that I'm abd. I am totally owned. I am totally dependent on someone else. I am totally a receiver. I'm totally passive. Everything is done unto me. Everything is coming through me. I only have needs. And the more I become aware of my ubudiyah, the more it mirrors rububiyah.
Thank you, Dr. Amina. I was wondering if I could share just a personal testimony on how the third droplet has been continuing to transform my life. If we have time. So, and please stop me if we don't have time. I'm assuming we do. So this part where he's especially, he solves and expounds the strange riddle of the mystery of the world's creation. He discovers and solves the abstruse mystery, which is the secret of the universe. And he provides convincing and satisfying answers. I grew up having known like this really beautiful church and very good Christians who were humble and kind and spent their lives in service, and who, you know, introduced me to a prophet and who showed nothing, you know, showed love and for, you know, all the children of the world. And someone that, like, you know, I developed this sort of love for Jesus Christ growing up. And when I came to college and I started to, I joined, you know, Islam 101 and started to read the Quran, things started to come to mind, like certain answers that, or certain questions that, even though I had this perfectly fine experience of Christianity, certain questions were not being answered. A big one was something that I would sit and talk about with my church elders, which is that religion is like our church was beautiful in its service, and you know, we had good mentors, but the teachings weren't like always profoundly changing my life. And that I would go to church, but then the rest of my week was pretty mundane, or outside of our service trips, things weren't always like connected to God. I wasn't feeling the presence of God in my life always. And I felt that there was something that was always missing. There was meaning was missing, even though the religion was nice. And even though I, you know, had some answers for these last three, but it was more like memorized religious rhetoric as opposed to conscious witnessing, which is like what we're trying to do here. When I started to learn about Islam, I didn't, I mean, one of the first like complexes that I had to solve was that why should I trade one religion for the next? Why should I trade in one prophet for another prophet? This prophet is nice, that prophet is nice. And it was really like hitting me hard that why should anybody be judged on the religion that they inherit from their parents? This isn't like just, and it's not, it doesn't like, it doesn't tell us which religion must be true, for one to just be inherit religion from your parents. There must be something that distinguishes what the true religion is. And that is what I received through studying the Risale Nur and the Quran interpretations with our friends here, is an answer to this. It is the Prophet ﷺ who taught me that there is no mundane, that everything was alive with the names of God, and that this presence here and now is my connection to God, and it brings great meaning with it. So this was, a message that I could never receive, or I couldn't understand through just like looking at religion in a historical way, or even as like without the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that message would never have gone to me, even if I had studied, even as I was already like practicing a religious lifestyle, or and trying to be a good religious person before. So this is outside entirely of like what most people experience as their religion. This is truly waking up. It's a real awakening. And it's so transformative that everything becomes this, or it has the potential to become meaningful, true witnessing of God. And all of a sudden, those three answers become deeply like even like I wouldn't be able to answer these anymore in a very like memorized way. Where did I come from? God, of course. What am I doing here? Worshiping God. Where am I going? Of course, the afterlife. I have to sit with those questions and really feel them in my heart. And then as I'm doing that, I realize like the the internal meaning of them is like just goes on and on. And it's like this very live, it's this live awakening that cannot be explained, or cannot come from, I think, any other source than the way we're told to live by the Quran. That's the experience that I've had in my life with this third droplet.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. And there's a comment from Ziba in the chat. It says, when I compare or see myself in the perspective of the creation around me and with the guidance of Quran, I can start finding answers. But I don't stop and reflect. That's my responsibility and sole purpose. May Allah guide me and all of us. Ameen. Thank you.
I'll just piggyback off of Inaba and share one thing that just came to me. Jazakillah khair, Inaba. As you were speaking, I recall another sharing that you shared with us about work. So Inaba is currently, mashallah, working as a midwife. And as she goes to clock into work and open the curtain to find out who the patient is going to be, I remember her saying, like, it was like an unveiling, almost like a turning a page. Like, I wonder what is, what new word, what new interaction is going to be deliberately placed before me on this learning journey. And already that example spoke to me with the Book of the Universe. Imam Nursi it is transformational, Inaba. It's the difference between religion and purposeful conscious living. Religion as defined by, institutions and mainstream scholars in every faith. And, people that were inspired, like Imam Nursi, who were able to see this living speech happening live in life, in the universe, and connecting that with the speaker, and having this constant need to reorient with every event to the reality. And so I remember Inaba in her example was sharing, if you don't mind, Inaba, since I'm already sharing. It was such a beautiful example. But it was so beautiful because it was so practical about reading the book as the universe. When a situation happened at work that was not preferred, immediately the question occurred to her of like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? There's a situation happening. I know my Rab will teach me. So let's just pause and remember that I'm the reader and there's a teacher that will impart on me. So already that puts into this perspective that I'm the reader and that this happening that I may or may not prefer is being revealed on this page right now. My job is to pause and remember that I am the reader. And that's extremely hard to do unless we ask that first question and we remember, where does this feeling come from? We think I feel upset or I feel etc. And then that feeling almost swallows you into the belly of the whale, which isn't a bad thing. But I mean, even in the belly of the whale, we are reminded through scripture to come back to reorient ourselves to who we are and what we're doing here. The universe, like Dr. Ali says, is a university and it's unfolding. Yani, it's not even one page at a time. It's literally a letter that makes a word, that makes a sentence, that makes a paragraph. And I'll only be able to get meaning out of that really when it comes to feelings, because and mashallah, Dr. Ali's halaqah today, we were talking about women and how we feel from Surah Yusuf, but like feelings are such a key emphasis of our lives and the moment to moment happenings. We feel big feelings. And without this reorientation, these last three questions are key. They're quintessential in whether we are on the straight path or the dark path, on the path of light and understanding, or on the path of just being totally consumed in the darkness. So where do you come from also reminds me of like, where does this feeling come from? What am I supposed to be doing with this? Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to, quote unquote, read this feeling as something that's made. What is it that this has to teach me? I am in need and I cannot be the one who can control, teach, learn, be patient, etc. I am in need of. And therefore, in that moment, I can decide to go. Where are you going? The final question. Back to my destination. I love these three questions because, like Inaba said, it's not how religion frames them. We come from God, we're here to worship, and we're going back to God. We're all going back to paradise where we came from, Adam and it's completely different. It's not falsifying that, but it's saying right now there's a feeling on your chest. Where did it come from? What are you supposed to do with that? And how do you go to your destination using this experience right now? And therefore, every opportunity, every moment becomes a moment to, seal, renew this bond, this learning, this journey. And so it just makes such beautiful, my heart is just warm to connect this back to the one with the finest character and beautiful form who speaks this translator, the translator of the Quran of the universe, who delivers it and is speaking it pre-eternal speech. So it's like it's still speaking through the messenger as long as I choose to take that message and live with it, then I am living in connection to his living. I forget in the previous paragraph it said like the living tree.
Luminous tree.
Luminous tree. It was so beautiful. The image immediately came to me a luminous tree, like the roots are luminous, the trunk is luminous, and all the branches are luminous. And it's like light doesn't die. Like light is just, you know, lighting. So the minute that I choose to use this happening here and now and reorient to the light, then I am connecting to this shajara tayyiba, you know, this luminous tree. And I just, for some reason, that visual brought me great solace. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. This could be, these three questions could be our reflection for this week, because as I said, like, don't try to, because you can say, where do you come from? I come from this. No, not what we learned by memorized. What does it mean really? Where do you come from is not straightforward, is much more than, because you will realize, or inshallah, that's maybe not in a week, but what I say, where do you, when I say I today is different from I yesterday, from I before yesterday, and I this morning was feeling this way, was being this way. What is really I, and what is coming from where? So many things are going on here. And what are you doing here? When I say what are you doing here, means here and now. Whatever I am doing, it keeps changing. So this doesn't, I cannot explain it with, I'm doing this. I'm here to know God, to worship. What does it mean? How do you know God? How do you worship God? Where are you going? So this is something, and this question is something we ask ourselves, and it applies to me, to the people around me, to the things around me, to everything that exists, because we are all coming from the same flow. They are all here. They're part of my experience of life, part of whatever I am being right now. In a sense, there is a smaller being and a larger one. So just stay with that and don't try to answer, like, where do I come from? Let me write it down. Let me go and look in the books. No, not in that way. Just listen to what comes. How will you be inspired with answers to these questions? And how meaningful are they? How, or are they meaningful? Are they important? In the sense that if I know the answer or not, or how I know the answer or not, is going to change totally how I live my life, how I experience my life, how the destination, the istiqamah, everything is going to change. Like, do they transform everything or not? Only then we'll become aware of all this. Inshallah.
I have a request. Can somebody please post these questions in the Receiving Noor WhatsApp group?
Yes, inshallah.
Allah يجازيك بخير. I'm driving. Thank
Also
you.
keep in mind that this text has been sent as a Google document in a newsletter. Every Wednesday there's a newsletter, so today's newsletter contains the link to this document that we read today, including the questions at the end. And you're welcome to make a personal copy, which you can then highlight as you like or edit as you like.
جزاك الله ألف خير.
Okay, thank you. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على السيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. May Allah bless your 3 months, and especially this month of Rajab, inshallah. It's a month of istighfar, so please, when you make istighfar, each one of us remember everyone else, inshallah. May we pray for each other. May Allah accept all your prayers. This is the time of istighfar, and istighfar is like deleting, inshallah, all the mistakes and all the that we made in our life. May Allah transform them into beautiful things that, into hasanat, inshallah. Whether we make them knowingly or unknowingly, it's in the past, and we ask for forgiveness, inshallah.
Ameen. Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina. And Jazakumullah khair. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.